I'd like you to imagine your dream life. See the version of you who has what you want to have, feels how you want to feel, and is who you want to be. I'm Brittany Hoops, your hypnotherapist and manifestation coach, and this is the show where I'll teach you to master the full power of your mind, to guide you on your journey towards Destination Manifestation.
Take a step back.
Hello there, travelers. Welcome to another episode of the Destination Manifestation Podcast. Can you believe it is the end of 2025? I think my mind is literally blown. How? Literally how? This year has been such a whirlwind. I mean, it's crazy to think that I was only just a few weeks pregnant last Christmas. Yeah, that's nuts. I don't know how you guys, what holidays you celebrate or how you celebrate them, but in our household, we have these stocking holders that we put on our fireplace mantle that have little cutouts for you to put the picture of whose stocking it is. So my husband has his picture there, I have my picture. And last Christmas, we stuffed our little 6-week ultrasound in the little picture slot for our soon-to-be daughter. And what you know, I just updated her picture. She's about 40 times the size as she was last year, now that she's approaching being 5 months old. But it's just, I don't know, it's going by so fast. And I know parents say that, but I think that is one of the most ultimate things that people say that you don't quite internalize until you experience it. There's nothing that can prepare you for how fast a baby grows. When you're in it, you're just oh my gosh, this is so hard. Especially the newborn phase, you're just oh my gosh, each minute feels like an hour. But then when you look back, it just went by so fast. Adult time is just, I mean, it's such a great reminder that all time is relative, which we're going to be talking about here today. But I can't wait to celebrate my daughter's first Christmas. And I can't even imagine what she might look like next year, although I don't think she's going to be 40 times the size. That would be hard to keep up. She'd be 6 foot by that point. So yeah, it's very exciting time here in the Hoops household. But I would say that this year has been one of the biggest identity shifts I've probably ever, I have yet to undertake in this lifetime, or at least the top 3. I can think of some other pretty big identity shifts I've done, but at least top 3. And it's not just the circumstance of becoming a mother, but it's really deciding
Manifestation,
what that
right?
means for
There
me.
is no
Who
manifestation
I am
without identity.
as
And
a
if there's
mother.
kind of
Especially
one
considering that
thing
manifesting
you asked
my
me,
daughter
Brittany,
and manifesting,
I only
becoming
have
a
the
mother and
bandwidth to
motherhood
focus on
was
one
the
thing when it
primary
comes to
manifestation that I was
manifestation.
focused on
What
this
should
year.
it be?
And so
I would say
that's what
the
I wanna
one thing
talk
to
about here
focus on as you
today.
manifest
Not necessarily
is
through
to
the
make
lens
sure
of
you are
motherhood. So
crafting
don't
your
worry if that's
identity
not something
to
that you're
be in alignment
manifesting.
with that
This can really
manifestation.
apply to any and
That's
all
why I call
manifestations.
it the
But I want to
Manifest
talk
Me
about the
Vault, right?
role of
My
identity as a
subscription, my hypnotherapy
pathway to
subscription. It's called the
manifestation and
Manifested
behavioral change.
Me Vault. It's all
Because
about
who
identity is
manifested you?
king. It is
Who's that person
paramount
that
when it
manifests their
comes to
desires into their reality? Because to take action on your dreams without having embraced this sort of aligned identity first, well, as you can imagine, it's all just going to be really surface level. It's going to feel fake. You'll feel like an imposter. Seriously, I really, truly do believe that the root of all imposter syndrome comes from taking action without having accepted the identity that's attached to that action or attached to that manifestation first. So I'm sure you can think of a time where you took an action towards an outcome that you wanted and it just felt awkward. It felt uncomfortable. It just didn't feel like you. It felt fake. It felt like you didn't belong. Like you were wearing some sort of costume or something, right? That everybody could sniff you out. Maybe you felt out of place. Maybe you went to the gym and you rock up to the weight station, or you go up to the dumbbells, or you go into one of these machines that looks like a torture device and you don't know how to use it. And it's got pulleys and levers and clips and clamps. And you're like, what is this thing? Right. And, you go up to the weight rack and there's all these buff guys and they're just like grunting around you. Oh my God, I hate when they do that. Why do guys have to grunt? That's another separate rant, but like if you're a male and you grunt at the gym, you should be banned, okay? That's my hot take. But there's all these guys, right? And they're grunting and their eyes are just like boring holes into your bum. And like you look in the mirror and all you can notice is how much weaker and flabbier and bigger you are than anyone else. Can you tell I've thought about this? Okay, sure. You might be there. You might be working out, but you haven't adopted the energy of a gym girly yet or a gym bro yet, right? And I don't mean that you have to be some sort of kind of annoying version of that. I think when we think of a gym girly or a gym bro, we might kind of have some associations with that. You don't have to be the cliched version. That's not an identity. I think sometimes we even might keep ourselves from some manifestations because we don't want to be seen as that cliched identity. But it's why it's so important for you to define your own version, your identity, your manifested me, where working out your body multiple times a week is just a part of who you are. At least that's an example that I'm using here, right? So you don't need to be your typical gym bro or your typical gym girly. You can be the version you want to be. For example, I have fallen in freaking love. Well, I've fallen in love before with this kind of workout, but I've fallen back in love with it now that I'm no longer pregnant. But I love virtual reality boxing. Like that is my jam. I go in my exercise room here in my home, I clear out a big space and I just punch. And I love it. And it's like a full body workout. I feel it in my arms, I feel it in my back and my glutes and my, thighs and just everywhere. It's really fun. That's my version of being a gym girly. And I don't even have to step foot in a public gym, but that's my manifested me. So you need to find your version. It doesn't have to fit the version of other people out there. In fact, I've been thinking about that a lot lately, just even like how I show up in my business. Like you all know, if you follow me on Instagram, I'm a girl that loves a baseball cap. Okay. Like 95% of the time, I'm either wearing my baseball cap or maybe rocking my bangs. I've worn bangs since I was like 5 years old. Okay. Like that's my primary hairstyle. One of the two. And I used to get all hung up about it, being like, oh, I love to wear baseball caps. That's when I feel most like myself, most how I want to be. I'm comfortable. My hair is up. It's out of my face. I like the way they look. But, will somebody take a hypnotherapist seriously if she's wearing a baseball cap? Like, will that negate my skills and expertise and experience? And like, will they take me seriously? And I recently just came to the realization that it just freaking doesn't matter. It just really doesn't matter. I'm a baseball cap wearing hypnotherapist. And if you don't like your hypnotherapist to wear baseball caps, then you probably shouldn't go to me. But if you like somebody who's down to earth, who's practical, who's just a normal old gal, just like you might be, then I'm probably your person. And this is all about embracing and defining your identity. And that's what's funny. I've always said this, like, even when I am a multi-zillion trillionaire, right? Maybe we're not aiming that high. Personally, I don't know what I'd even do with all that money. Maybe when I'm a multi-millionaire, I will still be wearing this baseball cap. That is just part of who I am. It doesn't reflect on any of my outside manifestations. And I want you to give yourself permission for that too. It's about embracing and defining your own manifested me, right? Where you belong, deciding where is your space. Because when we feel otherwise, like, do you end up sticking with any of those actions? It's probably not likely. Now, a lot of people are going to think that they need to do that action. And by doing the action, that's what is going to lead to the outcomes that they seek, right? And, then after they've done all that action, that's when they'll become the person, the identity. I'll eat the healthy meal plan, then I'll be the slim fit version of me. But that actually isn't the case. It's the opposite, right? It's the other way around. You got to develop the identity first, become that person first, and that is what is going to fuel that action. The only way you stick with eating a healthy meal plan is when you know yourself already to be that slim fit version of you. Because out of shape you, Okay. She doesn't eat or exercise that way. That's why they're out of shape. If they ate that way and they exercised that way, they wouldn't be out of shape, right? So if you identify with being out of shape, it's going to make zero sense for you to do any of the actions that would put you in shape, right? It's not who you are. It's not what you do. But slim fit version of you takes those actions. Now, of course, you guys understand. I'm just using these as examples, right? These are examples. I want you to apply them to your specific manifestation. This whole episode isn't about, getting fit or whatever. I've just used a lot of gym examples here. But you have to see how, this version of you would take those actions. So you have to become the identity of your fulfilled desire first in order to fuel those necessary actions. And part of this becoming process, is about focusing on, it's about refining the words that you speak to yourself, especially those words that are adopted by your subconscious mind, because those words really matter, especially those statements that are going to reflect upon your identity. And I really can't think of any better statement that reflects upon identity more than an I am statement. Okay. There's this wonderful book. It's written by Wayne Dyer and Dr. Wayne Dyer, and it's called Wishes Fulfilled Mastering the Art of Manifesting. In fact, I remember reading this book a while ago. I don't know if I even remember, probably like 15 years ago. It was during one of the summers that I took off college. Or, the summers in between college semesters, right? And this book just completely changed my life. I still remember it all these years later. And if you're interested, this book, along with 90 other of my favorite manifestation resources, I packaged them all into this free toolkit on my website. So if you're interested in more recommendations, if you want to get your feet wet in manifestation in a really big way, go to brittanyhoops.com/manifestation-toolkit, or you can just click the link in the show notes here, or the description, and you can download that resource list for yourself. I personally been studying manifestation for over 18 years. That's more than half my life. I've been manifesting longer than I haven't been consciously manifesting at this point. So over all that time, I've distilled down the best books, the best hypnosis audios, the best programs, like you name it. I put it into this toolkit, and this is going to probably keep you busy manifesting for the next, 2 decades as well. So check that out completely for free. I've done the heavy lifting here, so you might as well. I wanted to share the best ones with you. Okay. So, anyways, there's this book. It's on that list called Wishes Fulfilled. I read this book, and Wayne talks about the power of the statement, I am. Okay. I am. Did you know that I am is the name of God? In Exodus 3:14, Moses asked God, he says, what is your name? And God doesn't say God, as one might expect, right? He says, I am that I am. Tell them I am has sent you. Right? And this is the only moment in the entire Bible where God defines his own name. Pretty powerful, right? Now, I'm no longer consider myself a religious person, right? But we know it's God, universe, source, energy, whatever you want to call it, right? If we sit back and think about the implications of that, we have to kind of realize that we're all extensions of source, God, energy. So God says, I am that I am. That means that I am is creator God consciousness. And so we're simply extensions of that. We are I ams too, right? And I am is the clearest way that you can define your identity. So when you define the I am, you define who you are. You define your creation. I mean, and that's manifestation at its purest form, right? You are a creator. Therefore, you become who you identify as. You become your I am. It's who you are. So when you say, I am insert identity of manifestation here, right? I am wealthy. I am confident. I am healthy. I am 100 pounds lighter. That's my current manifestation, right? I am. I've been down 24 so far, so I'm getting there. When you affirm that I am statement, you are aligning with that God creator consciousness. And it's not just a phrase or a sentence, it's more than that. I mean, you are literally executing a creative command to the universe. You are activating that divine identity part of you. And, when I like to explain it this way, when I say that you're an extension of source energy, I kind of like to picture it like this. I sort of almost picture our souls, right? Your soul, my soul is kind of like this glob of like clay slime. Do you have any kids in your life? Have you ever babysat a child, around the age of like 7 or 8, right? They probably love to play with something called slime. Okay. So that glittery ball of slime is you with a capital Y, right? Your soul, the part of you that is neither created nor destroyed, that is, everlasting. And if you decide to take that ball of slime and you kind of like pinch a bit of that slime and you just sort of like pull it, you stretch it, do you know what happens, right? It's going to sort of create this gooey string that attaches that little bit you pinched to the bigger slime ball that you started with. And that's sort of how I feel it is when we incarnate into our 3D physical bodies and we enter this 3D physical reality on Earth. That little bit, it isn't completely pinched off. No, it's still connected by that divine string. It's still part of the whole, yet it operates as its own little glob, right? That little bit is your manifested 3D physical form, your body, your personal identity here on Earth. I call her Brittany. You call him or her probably a different name, right? Whatever your name is. But you're still connected to your higher self, your God self from which you came, from which you still are. So when you use I am statements, you're calling on that higher self version of you. You're calling that version of you forward. You're activating that string that connects that part of yourself to your higher self, your full self. You're bridging the gap between the physical 3D you to your higher self you, who already has what you want and is already who you want to be at all times, since she's your creator self. She's your God self. She's already I am. And so if you're activating that divine power when you claim who you are, anything after the phrase I am becomes a directive, a command to the universe. I sort of think of it like this way, like when you say I am, you begin to call upon, you begin to harness that God universe energy. Like you're literally calling out the name of God. You're getting God's attention. You're getting the universe's attention. You're starting a prayer. You're saying, I am. And then anything you say after those words, I am, is where you place that creative energy. I kind of picture it like I don't watch anime, but like what I know of like an anime cartoon or something, right? Like you summon this energy into your hands, like your Dragon Ball Z, and you say, I am, and you summon the energy. And then you say wealthy or healthy or abundant or whatever it is that you want to see reflected in your 3D reality. It's kind of like taking that ball of energy that you summoned in your hands and then sending that creative energy to your intended manifestation. I just did a really beautiful acting out of this visualization if you're watching on YouTube, okay? So, the beauty of all this, I would say, is that it isn't just a spiritual concept. The neuroscience supports this too, and I love it when that happens. So we know that our subconscious mind treats I am statements as commands, not descriptions. So people might say, "Ugh, I'm tired," or "I'm no good with money," or "Ugh, I'm such a terrible sleeper." What do you notice yourself saying sometimes? Isn't that funny? Like we think it's like people go, "I am a terrible sleeper," but like usually it's just like, "Ugh, I'm so quick." I apostrophe M. I'm so quick. And yet we do it. And yet it's identity. So they can really sneak up on you. I want you to notice what you say sometimes, because when you say it, you're claiming that. You're making that your name, your identity, your manifestation. I'll tell you this, when I work with clients, especially clients that are insomniacs, or isn't that interesting, right? They aren't insomniacs. They view themselves, they've adopted the identity of an insomniac. We have to first build the identity of being a good sleeper. If you say, I'm an insomniac, well, then you're going to sleep Not very well. That's an identity. We have to build up the identity of being a good sleeper. Believe it or not, I would say a lot of people equate a lack of sleep or being an insomniac with things that they actually cherish about their current identity. That's why they won't give up the lack of sleep, because it would give up something else that they actually do really like about their identity. They think that maybe it means that they care more since they're up thinking and worrying all night, that it's like an act of care or service. They think maybe that they work harder because they don't sleep, you know? It gives them an excuse when they go into the office the next day and they look super tired. They can be like, yeah, I was working all night. I didn't get any sleep, right? It's like they wear it like a badge of honor. They feel that life is tougher for them. So they want to keep this excuse in their back pocket. They'd rather not sleep and fail at something and then they can blame sleep rather than having a full night's rest and, taking the chance that they might fail. Because what would that mean about them if they failed then? If they were fully rested, right? Now, I'm not saying this is everyone, but it's an interesting psychological, dynamic that you kind of have to be honest with yourself and say, what am I getting out of this negative identity? And because if you have any of that, it's going to keep you from sleeping. So what we have to do is we have to build the identity of a good sleeper. And this ensures that that new identity also supports those other values that you may care about too, but in a way that's actually helpful. If you want to feel like you care a lot, there's a lot better ways to show that you care that you can adopt into your new identity than staying up all night worrying, right? And so to do that, we kind of have to set aside all those past sleepless nights and we have to say, yes, okay, sure. Those may have happened, but they aren't me. They aren't who I am at my core. And that's a really sort of important and oftentimes tricky sort of thing. The ability to parse your actions from your identity, it's crucial when it comes to manifesting. And honestly, more than just manifesting, it's crucial when it comes to just living a happy life in general. You have to understand that sometimes we may do actions, but that doesn't mean that we're that person, that it's our identity. Case in point, I'll share a story with you. Lately, my husband and I, we've been reflecting on how we want to raise our daughter, right? Especially as she grows older. And we both, my husband and I, grew up in households where if you made a mistake, there were high consequences, right? And we both kind of have our own different versions of how we were sort of inadvertently taught that and our own healing that we've both been doing in that area. But we both agree, we're both in very staunch agreement that we don't want our daughter to grow up hesitant to take action because she fears the repercussions of making a mistake. That's not what we want to teach her. So there's this sort of new phrase that we've been saying to ourselves at any time, sort of making it a family phrase that if either of us will make a mistake, and the phrase is this, right? Small things, not small people. And I love it because it kind of reminds us of two very important things. One, we've defined that the only things that really truly qualify as traditional capital M mistakes are those things that are life threatening. Now, you might kind of like, gasp at this definition. That's our family definition of a mistake. Everything else is an action that has a learning opportunity attached to it. Everything else is small in the whole scheme of things, even if it may not feel like it in the moment. Okay. It also doesn't mean that that action may not hurt. I'm sure you're thinking of a zillion examples right now where you might feel that that's not the case, right? Where it's a mistake, even if it wasn't life threatening. But I promise you, if you zoom out far enough, it's small. It truly is. It's something you can get over, And I'll say this, my parents, especially my dad, they made a big deal out of seemingly very small things. And I can only really kind of see that as an adult now, right? Especially now that I'm a parent. When you're a kid, your perspective is so different. You're learning. And it was kind of impossible for me as a kid to know and recognize like what was a small thing and what was a big thing. And so as kids, we were kind of like always walking on eggshells around him. Like we had no barometer or sense of knowing if a small mistake would get a big reaction or not. God forbid we accidentally made a mess or we were in the way or we were too loud out in public or whatever the case was, right? And, that was mostly on my dad. My mom enabled it too, because she didn't want his big reaction either. And so she would just sort of incessantly remind us how we needed to try to, read his mind in some sort of effort to control his reaction. And so that small thing became a big deal. And it was a big deal pretty much constantly. And so now I know and I understand that it doesn't matter what we did or what we didn't do. There was no amount of perfect that was going to keep his big reactions from happening because you can't control somebody else's reactions, right? But you don't know that as a kid, right? So now my impetus here is to actively reparent myself and parent my daughter at the same time to realize that, that most mistakes that happen are small and they're no big deal. The second thing that I really love about small things, not small people, this reminder, this affirmation, is to remind ourselves that when someone does make a mistake, because we all do, and oftentimes we make many of them, is when someone takes an action that doesn't work out, to remember that it's just an action. It's not a reflection of who they truly are. Now, you might think that there's some exceptions to that rule too. What I mean is it's not a reflection of their ball of higher self slime that they're extensions from, right? Their soul at their core. Identity fuels action. Action does not create identity. It does not go the other way. And it's a reminder to not make that person feel small because of a mistake. That doesn't mean you hide mistakes. It doesn't mean that you cover up mistakes. It doesn't even mean that the person is abdicated of the responsibility of the mistake. I think you should keep people accountable. Everyone should still be held accountable for their actions. But you can name that mistake for what it is, that it was a mistake. Because, you can even phrase it as a statement, as a fact. But you don't need to take it so far where you extrapolate that mistake as a reflection of who that person is at their core. And I think this is what a lot of, religions and a lot of spiritual concepts teach us about, like, forgiveness, right? Who it is at their core. Even I think of the way that my dad handled big and small things. I don't know if he would say that was a mistake or not. I don't know if we're there yet on that level of awareness, but I think I would label that as a mistake. And yet I don't think that's who he is at his core, right? Or any mistake I make, it isn't who I am at my core, right? So, because when you're made to feel small, this is why this is important. When you're made to feel small by someone else, when you're made to feel small even by yourself, a lot of people grow up, and they make themselves feel small because, their parents or their caregivers made them feel small all growing up, and they don't really know how to speak to themselves any other way now. And so now they just do it to themselves. When you're made to feel small for making a mistake, you are far more likely to not want to put yourself out there and try something new or take action towards your dreams because the stakes are so much higher than they really need to be. So there are only small things, not small people. Because if you get a question wrong on a test, it doesn't mean you are stupid. It simply means that you got a question wrong on a test. If you overextend your use of a credit card, it doesn't mean you are broke. Your bank account might be in the negative. That might be a fact. But you, the identity of you, the core of you, the I am, the manifested you, the higher self you, the ball of slime soul you, that you were an extension of, isn't broke. She isn't. And so if we let mistakes, and again, all a mistake is an action that's not in alignment with who we want to be, that makes it a mistake. If we let mistakes define our identity, then essentially you're reverse manifesting. And we don't want any of that, okay? No, you want to define who you want to be first, then let those actions come from that place. And when you do that, you'll find that you make far less mistakes, right? I truly do believe that if someone like my dad maybe would have took a moment and decided, okay, what's the kind of dad I want to show up as? How do I want to show up? That I think he wouldn't have wanted to yell all the time and have big reactions if there was awareness there. If he would have defined the identity first and then interacted with us from that place, took actions from that place, I truly don't think he would have blown up as much as he did. If he would have had that level of awareness, if he would have defined identity first. But a lot of us don't define our identity of who we want to be first and how we want to show up. And therefore, we end up making a lot of mistakes. And, that's also one of the dangers of translating our actions into identities. we can actually use that. If we do that, we can use it to reinforce identities that actually don't serve us or the ones that we care about most. Remember, every I am is actually a command. It is not a description. Every I am creates this cycle, this loop. It reinforces a behavior. So identifying with a negative action or a mistake, well, then that commands that it must continue until it becomes who you are. Yeah, until you've reinforced it so much that you've reverse manifested that outcome in your life. And we want to stop that cycle, right? So, if you want to use I am to manifest, to command your intended identity into being, you have to claim it. You have to become it first. And not this way. You don't say, "Well, I'm trying to be." If you've listened to this show any at all, you know what I always say. I say to try is to fail. I say it all the time because the subconscious mind registers trying as there being an opportunity, a possibility for failure, an easy way out. And our subconscious mind and the universe at large is always going to seek the path of least resistance. The brain is going to want to use the least amount of resources as possible. That's why autopilot is, is so beneficial to us, right? It wants to use the least resources and energy as possible. The universe uses the path of least resistance to get you what you want to manifest, right? So if you give it these opportunities, they're going to take it. Don't waver. You say, no, I am right now, even before it's visible to my physical eyes. Let it be visible to your inner eyes first, your mind's eye. And once you claim it, once you become it on that identity level, that thought then carries an energetic signature. That thought, that identity has certain frequencies that are associated with it. And once you tap into that, you activate that, well, your 3D reality has no choice but to catch up. Our world, as we know it, conforms to the frequencies that are emitted. The frequency is the blueprint, and the 3D, see it, taste it, touch it, feel it, matter is always constructed to match that blueprint. It kind of reminds me of one of those big 3D printers now that can construct houses. Have you seen one of those? Those printers, they're given a blueprint, they're given a code, they're given a frequency, and then they have no other function but to print out what they've been given. But they have to be given something first. They don't print and then come up with the code. They don't create, they don't do the action of printing and then be like, what was that? That'd just be a glob of 3D printer goo, right? No, they need the code, they need the blueprint, they need the identity first, and then they take the action of printing that house. So what starts as a thought that informs a blueprint then becomes a physical 3D house that someone in the cool part of Austin, Texas lives in. Right? And that's essentially manifestation. And all of this, everything we've discussed so far ties back to the law of assumption, to what Neville Goddard teaches, which is to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. I mean, Wayne Dyer's book was called Wishes Fulfilled, and that is very clearly a nod to Neville there, right? So assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled means that you don't wait around for what you want to be here in order to feel how you would feel. You feel that feeling first. And again, to do this, that is going to require some conviction. So instead of, I want to be healthy, it's, I am healthy. Instead of, well, I wish I slept better, it's, I am a peaceful, deep sleeper. Instead of, well, I'm working on my confidence, it's, I am confident. You claim it before you see it. In fact, you claim it so that you can see it. I think that's another Wayne Dyerism. He said, it isn't I'll believe it when you see it, it's you'll see it when you believe it. That's what we have to focus on here. You no longer wait for evidence. You create the evidence. You look for the evidence because whatever you look for, you are certainly going to find. The reticular activating system in your brain, the RAS, it ensures it. It filters out those things that are not a match to what you're looking for. And it lets in those things that are. Look for the evidence of the inevitability of your manifestations and you will find it. That's the good news. And if you want like a really great, like groundbreaking exercise on how to do that, I would highly suggest that you go back and listen to a past episode that's here on the podcast. It's called the number one manifestation exercise I'm loving right now. And spoiler alert, it's going to teach you how to create evidence for your manifestations. Now, another neuroscientific sort of quantum physics explanation to all this is we have to remember there is no such thing as time. Past, present, future, it is all happening simultaneously. So remember that blob of slime that is you, okay? There's not just one bit that was pinched off and stretched, I won't say pinched off, but pinched and stretched, over there to create Brittany or whatever your name is, right? Your identity. And that's connected to your higher self by that gooey string. There's not just one. No, there are hundreds, thousands, millions, infinity versions, right? Every single version of you as you perceive as past you, present you, future you, different lifetimes you, like you name it, all of those versions of you are little gooey strings attached to the whole capital U soul, all existing parallel realities at the same time. And so that's why we have to use I am statements. The I am statement allows us to shift our perception from one small glob you to another. It's almost like, do you remember those old like viewfinders that you used to, I don't know if you're like a 90s kid like I am, like this viewfinder, and you put the viewfinder in and you click it and you would stay the same, right? You would be the same. And you click and you see a new picture, and you click and you see a new picture, and you click and you see a new picture. And that's kind of what it is. You say, I am with every click. I am with every click. And that's how we jump and shift our perception of timelines because they all exist. It's just which picture are we looking at? Which I am are we being, right? And so you say I am because that's all that's true. That's all there is. All there is the right now, the present tense. There is no I was or I will be. It's all I am. Every version of me ams right now, right? Every version is right now. And it's all the subconscious mind can process. There's only now. Even when you think about the past, you're thinking about it in your now. You're just playing a little movie in your now. Same with the future. There's only right now. There's only who you are. And so in order for our brain and our reality to perceive this change, right? To click in to a different I am, to shift into the perception of a different version of ourselves, we have to escape that sense of time. We have to claim it now to see it now. Because if we claim it for the future, a future that doesn't technically exist, well, you're never going to see it. It's kind of like sending a letter to a fake address. Like you're never going to receive that letter. The address does not exist. Future does not exist. So if you claim it for the past, a past that no longer exists, you're never going to see it either. You'll only ever see it if you address that identity to the now, right? Now is the only address. So you have to claim it now in the present moment using the present tense, I am. So let's wrap this up. How can we use I am statements most powerfully to work with our subconscious minds? Well, Wayne Dyer said it. Neville Goddard said it. I've dedicated my life to it because it's that important. It's utilizing the theta brainwave state, which is a state of hypnosis. Okay, that sweet spot your brain naturally enters into right when you first wake up in the morning and right when you first go to sleep at night. Those are the two most powerful times. Now, why they're so powerful is because this is when your subconscious mind is most impressionable. This is when that command, that I am command lands, when the transformation happens. And it's really why all my hypnotherapy audio sessions that I include in the Manifested Me Vault require you to claim who you are. And in fact, I just added a new session and it's called Surrender into Sleep. Okay. I had some of y'all request a session on manifesting good sleep. Now, there are plenty of other sleep specific sessions that you can listen to as you drift off to sleep. They're already in the vault, but usually they kind of help you manifest other things while you sleep. But this one, Surrender into Sleep, actually helps you manifest the sleep itself. That is the manifestation, especially for those of us who may struggle in that area. So a kind of funny story in how I wrote this. I literally sat down and I was like, what if I took every single hypnotherapy technique that I found works the best for healing insomnia and for other sleep related issues? And what if I just sort of jam packed it into one ultimate fall asleep session. Like just throw everything at it. Because that's kind of the beauty of writing hypnotherapy sessions for sleep. There's no like time limits. Like you're sleeping. It can just go on as you're sleeping. So like I can make it as big as it needs to be, right? And of course I'm planning this as I lay there unable to sleep because I was pregnant at the time, right? So I really needed a session like that. And so I got to work on crafting it. And now it's here. And boy, oh, mwah, chef's kiss. Okay. It is so good. Like I find myself throwing that session on all the time now. My daughter, she's 5 months old. She'll wake up in the middle of the night and she'll be happy. She'll just be like cooing. She'll just be like, ooh, making these hoot and hollering right over there very loudly. And my husband and I, we kind of worked out a schedule where we take turns every other night who sort of needs to be on call to get her back to sleep if needed. And so on a night where it's not my turn, you better bet I am pressing play on that audio so fast. That hypnotherapy audio is stronger than any Ambien ever could be, okay? It is so good. And I kind of love no longer having to sort of worry about if I'll be able to sleep at night. Because if you've ever struggled with sleep, you know that kind of like creeping fear that's sort of like idling in the background, that like sort of like that like, oh, is this going to be one of those nights that I just lay there and look at the clock? And that fear itself is usually what keeps you up. So it's just kind of really nice to just sort of like, if for some reason I can't sleep, I just throw that baby on. I'm good. I'm well rested. I'm energized the next day. And you need it when you have an infant, right? And it just sort of takes a lot of mental energy off just in itself by not having to worry about that anymore. But I mentioned this audio because it builds up the identity of being a good sleeper, like we talked about before. And it's one of the many techniques that it uses. And so that over time, you're kind of even no longer reliant on the audio itself because you've embraced that identity. Pretty cool. And really, I would say this, all of the audios in the Manifest of Me Vault do that because as I've said, it's the key to all manifestation. It's identity first. In fact, you should see in my computer, I have like a half-written manuscript for a book that is all about identity and manifestation because it's that important. So, speaking of importance, let's not forget the most important piece of all this, right? It's not just about saying, I am balanced, or I'm the best in my field at what I do, or whatever you're wanting to manifest, right? It's not just about saying it. It's not about saying it as a thought or a statement or like it's some sort of magical spell. That's how some people treat it. That doesn't do it. It's about saying I am and then being it. I've described this in earlier episodes of the podcast, but I used to be an actress, and not just any actress. I trained for 4 years at NYU's Lee Strasberg Institute. Okay. And Lee Strasberg, if you're unfamiliar, he is the father of something called method acting. So I was a method actor. And that's kind of what you have to be when you embody your manifested me. In order to be your I am manifested self, at least when you first start, you sort of have to method act as them. You have to be them until it just is second nature and comes natural. And it only comes natural and second nature to you with practice. So it's more than just an action. It's more than just a thought. It's an attitude. It's a walk. It's making choices as them. It's eating as them. It's laughing as them. It's, I like to say to myself, WWMMD. Again, if you're a 90s kid, remember WWJD? What would Jesus do? Do you remember that? Like from the 90s, like kids would wear those silicone bracelets that have like WWJD printed on them. I don't know. That was a thing where I lived. Now it's WWMMD. What would manifested me do? It's asking yourself that question constantly and showing up as that version of you. And it's letting everything grow from that seed of I am within you, allowing everything to come from that place. So I want you to take a moment here today and really ask yourself, who am I? And not the current version of you that happened on autopilot. I mean, the one you're defining. What's your I am? And how can you be that version of you right now, this red hot minute? Now, for me, right now, I am 100 pounds lighter. I'm fit. I'm healthy. I'm oozing vitality. I'm light on my feet. And when I remember who I truly am, I find myself engaging my core more. I grunt less when I get out of a chair. I've been really trying not to do that, especially in front of my daughter. I don't want her to think that that's like what we do when we stand up. I saw a TikTok where a baby thought that, and I was like, oh, I need to be careful, right? So that's my I am. I say yes to a walk around the neighborhood, even if I've already worked out that day. That's what I did today, double workout. Okay, I do my VR boxing. And I no longer feel this sense of drudgery or obligation because it's just who I am. I'm the kind of person who's active. And a person who's active loves to do activity. And so that's what I do. And that's kind of another great prompt. I want you to finish this sentence, okay? I'm the kind of person who are you? Manifested you. And if you'd love to sort of solidify, if you'd love to sort of lock in, discover, set in stone this new intended manifested you identity, well, there's certainly tools that can help you do that, right? Every single hypnotherapy audio in the Manifested Me Vault was designed to help you embody the identity of your choosing. They all share that in common. And of course, there's that new audio, the Surrender into Sleep one that I mentioned before, that can help you get a good night's sleep. But there's also like, I don't even know how many we have in the vault by now. I mean, there's so many more that you can explore too. All of them are in the Manifested Me Vault. And if you use code MMV72 in the next 72 hours from the release of this episode right here, right now, I'm going to give you half off. Yep, that's right. I'll pay half, you pay half. And that's how invested I am in your success with all of this, okay? Because I want you to know. I already know. And there's no having to prove it to me. I want you to know how much your life can change the moment that you set your mind to it. And hypnotherapy can certainly be that shortcut to help you do that. So just go to BrittanyHoops.com/manifested-me-vault, or you can just click on that link in the show notes. And don't forget to sign up with code MMV, stands for Manifested Me Vault 72, MMV 72, for half off. All right, travelers, I want you to enjoy the journey. I want you to love who you are. And I'll see you at Destination Manifestation over in the next episode.
I don't know.